Hey, in today's video, I want to give you 7 reasons why the Bernard Edwards bass line to We Are Family by Chic is genius. I'll see you inside the video. Hey guys, it's James here from eBassGuitar, and over the summer just gone, I was really fortunate enough to spend 4 days at a really beautiful family festival here in the UK called Camp Festival. If you're in the UK, I really recommend checking it out because it's a super cool vibe. And one of the bands which was a real highlight for me was seeing Sister Sledge. Now in the Sister Sledge band, there were 2 British musicians, one of which was a friend of mine called Arden Hart, who's playing keyboards, and a British guitarist called Tim Sandyford. But it's not uncommon for when Sister Sledge come to the UK to use British musicians, because they've actually used eBassGuitar's very own Paul Geary, who works as part of our coaching team, as one of their touring musicians. Now, in the touring lineup this time was an American bass player called David Jones, who was absolutely fantastic. And when it came round to playing their big hit, We Are Family, it reminded me of why this bass line is absolutely genius. So I'm going to take you through 7 reasons why you should learn this bass line. So guys, just before we hit the video content, I want you to know there's a completely free PDF that comes with this lesson, so you can see everything we're discussing today written down in standard notation and tab. There is a link in the description below. So reason number 1 this bass line is genius is because there are fundamentally only 2 bass riffs running throughout the song, which shows that bass lines just have to be well thought out and don't have to be overly complex to make an amazing track. Now the bass player on this original record was Bernard Edwards, from the partnership of Bernard Edwards and Nile Rodgers, which was Chic, who were the producers for Sister Sledge. Now this really is bass playing at its finest in my opinion. So to show you these 2 riffs in action, I'm going to play them one by one, and I want you to just really lock in to the simplicity and how well thought out these particular riffs are. So check them out. So here is the riff to the intro and chorus section which starts the song. Now just compare and contrast this with the riff to the verse section. Check this out. Now Bernard Edwards is playing his legendary Music Man Stingray from the 1970s in there, which gives you such a big, fat, punchy sound. So to try and recreate this on a PJ, what I'm done is I'm playing over the bridge pickup here more. I'm playing pretty hard as well to get it punchy, and I've also added some bass into my sound to fatten up the bottom end. Now, this moves us onto reason number 2. This bass line is genius. So we're specifically going to talk about the intro and chorus now. This is a masterclass in bouncing off open strings. Bouncing off open strings is one of those hacks which can really put speed and bounce into your bass playing. You'll hear guys like Jaco Pastorius doing this. This is how he gets the speed of phrases like when you hear that kind of thing coming from. So this is how powerful bouncing off open strings is. So let me show you this riff so you can see how this works. 1, 2, 3. So that is the basic 4-bar phrase which is going on there. So what Bernard Edwards is doing when you slow it right down, he's playing the A, And then what he's doing is he's playing an open E rather, and then bouncing onto the A back there, then hitting an octave, and then back down to the lower octave like so. So it's an A, open E, hammer on, fretted A, octave, and then back down here. So this is really the combination of octaves and bouncing open strings combined, which creates this vibe which goes through the track. So let me play it with the verse again, and you'll hear how effective bouncing off the open strings is. So once you've got the bouncing of the open strings and the octaves down, we need to move on to reason number 3. So reason number 3, this bass line is genius, is because of the rhythmic pushes that Bernard Edwards is putting in the bass line. Now there's something super interesting to look at going on here, is all of the chords are anticipated or pushed before the bar line. So he plays the root note during the verse and the intro section on beat 4 and of the bar. But the drums, interestingly enough, just keep it straight. So this kind of push and pull going on in the rhythm section, which is really interesting. So what I want to do is just highlight this to you now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the pushes on the chord changes. So you can hear the chord changes and those pushes. I'm going to play that twice, and then I'm going to integrate the bouncing octaves again, so you can see how the rest of the bass line fits in. But appreciating these pushes is super, super important to understanding this bass line. So here it is with the track. So let's move on to reason number 4, why this bass line is genius. And this is all to do with the verse section. What he does with this 2-bar verse bass riff is he front loads it, which is really interesting. Let me play the riff first of all, then I'll explain what I mean. So what you'll discover there is a little fill on the first bar of it. So it sounds like this. And then the second bar is quite straight. What is typical to do in bass lines is have a simple first bar and then leave the fill to the second bar to get the balance in the phrase. But Bernard Edwards has been a bit of a maverick here and reversed it. So what I want to do is just play the verse groove to you right now and just really appreciate that little fill over the first part of the bar. So guys, we're halfway through this video and I'd love to ask you, if you're enjoying this video, please make sure you subscribe to the eBassGuitar YouTube channel, because we do loads of cool videos like this where we take apart legendary bass lines, as well as giving you the tools to take your bass playing from that beginner to intermediate levels all the way up to advanced. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we release a lesson every single week. So hit that red button, which is somewhere around this video, and you'll be the first to know when a new lesson goes live. So reason number 5, I think this bass line is genius, is because over the verse section, Bernard Edwards is really nicely outlining the harmony, particularly on that first A chord. And he is implying an A7 chord in his bass line. So let me show you what I mean. So what he's doing there is he's playing an A, C sharp and an E, like that, which is an A triad perfectly. then he goes up to the G, and then he goes from the flattened 7th to the octave, then he goes to the 4th to the 5th, and then goes back down to the A down there. So we end up with this bass line, which really nicely outlines the harmony here. So we have that simple first bar, then we go into just really nice big open octaves here. So we go up to an E octave, and then we bounce off the open string to the D octave. Then right at the end of the bar, he snaps in this little 16th note E. I'll play that again to get us back to the A. So let me play you that second bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the thing here is really appreciate the note length difference between the two. So we end up with these really nice sort of short, spiky, funky bass lines. And then when we go into the E, like that, they are much longer notes. So it really gives the bass line balance. So let me play it with the track so you can really appreciate what I'm talking about. So reason number 6, I think this bass line is genius, and I've already alluded to this in this video, is the bass line is so highly crafted and thought out. And to give you an example of this, there are 3 little cheeky slap phrases that happen in the verse every single time, and they don't happen by accident as well. Now, slap bass isn't something that I associate Bernard Edwards with, but he was clearly highly adept at it and thought this would work perfectly. So I want you to listen out for this little phrase here, which happens every time they play the verse. So those slap notes happen on the 3rd time through. So let me explain what I mean by that. So the chorus is 16 bars. It is a 4-bar phrase which is repeated 4 times. Now on the 3rd time it is played, he always plays this slap fill without fail. It's not some accident he's just thrown in there. It's really part of the track. So what he does here to play this slap fill is he hammers on from a C to a C sharp on the G string. And then he goes from a G to an A. And then he goes down to an F sharp to a G. And then jumps straight to the next chord, which is a G. And interestingly, this is front loaded again. It's on the front on the first bar of the phrase, rather than typically the 4th bar of the phrase where you'd expect a fill to happen. So what I want to do now is play the introduction, and I want you to really listen out for that little slap fill when it comes along on the 3rd time. So reason number 7, this track is genius, is just when you've got super comfortable with the 2 riffs and how brilliantly thought out they are, there is this unison phrase towards the end of the track when they are playing the chorus, and this is right on the 4th bar of the 4-bar phrase. And what it is this unison phrase which works with the rest of the band, and it sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you go back into the chorus. Now, if you're playing this live yourself, you can throw this in as many times as you want, but true to form, they've used it subtly and sparingly within the track, but I really want to point this out as the last thing we're covering in this lesson today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the outro. I'm going to throw in this riff, this little outro unison passage. Then I'm going to have a jam with the track just to finish this video off. So here goes. So guys, that's the end of today's lesson. Really hope you've enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, download the free PDF that comes with this lesson, because you can see everything we're talking about today written out in standard notation and tab. There's a link in the description below. Also, if you're really looking to push your bass guitar playing forward and play the very best bass of your life, make sure you jump over to eBassGuitar.com. Check out the Bass Lab Plus. That's my private members training program where there's everything you need to take your bass playing from the beginner to intermediate phases all the way through to those really super cool advanced places. So there's a link in the description below where you can check it out completely free for 14 days. Cheers, I've been James from eBassGuitar.com. I'll catch you next week.